WTIM.
You're listening to WTIM, your information station, and our morning show brought to you by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first and Landmark of Taylorville. I'm your host, Grayson Bauman. Joining us in this segment by phone today, Andrew Holsinger, horticulture educator with the University of Illinois Extension. Andrew, good morning to you, sir. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. Thank you.
Thank you, and for being here and joining us on a busy day for you. We'll spare you having to drop or spill the beans on that, but we do appreciate you taking the time to join us here. So, Andrew, we were talking about in the break there just how dry it has been, and that's where we kind of want to pick up our conversation with our listeners here today. All the same, gardening and drought conditions, kind of keeping up with these drought conditions. What recommendations maybe do you have, and what can you tell us?
Well, it is dry and getting drier. There's a U.S. drought monitor that gives you a report and a nice visual map of what the conditions are for drought. Drought is periods of abnormally dry weather, and as it intensifies, as it has, you see changes. There's different levels. You have abnormally dry, moderate drought, severe drought, extreme drought, and exceptional drought. And right now, where my office is in Hillsborough, Illinois, in southern Montgomery County, we're in a severe drought. And the rest of the listening area, Christian, Shelby, those counties are in a moderate drought. But only imagine with the lack of rain, it's going to continue to be dry and cause some drought stress to some of our plants.
That drought stress is not just for the plants by the look of things here, but also you're considering it as harvest season ramps up and with the rivers that we have right now too. What can you tell us about what this might bring in terms of, the drought is here to stay maybe, but what might that bring with it?
Well, there are some risks that are involved whenever we do have these dry conditions. We have the risk of fire. There's been plenty of fires with farm machinery before. I've seen some calls out for people to have their machinery ready with discs in case there are some fires that get out of hand. You have the risk of blowing dust that can ramp up as people get out there and start harvesting. But the rivers are running a low stage on the waterways, and so some of that can affect some of the transport possibilities for grain going down the rivers, and maybe have to take some detours or what have you through this dry time we're having.
It's an all-encompassing deal where it's not just our plants, but it is a whole lot of things, and that risk of blowing dust or dust storms, I would assume, is only continuing to grow as it continues to stay dry. Let's, fingers crossed, get a little rain on Sunday as may be expected. But you mentioned that climate data that you're kind of looking at. What have you seen from it that you've made of, and what are you kind of seeing from the data that's been released so far?
Well, we have a state climatologist, and he was looking for some reports of what people were seeing around the different areas of Illinois, and he publishes a blog. But August was extremely dry across southern and south central Illinois, and we've been seeing virtually no rain. I know the other day it looked like somebody took a spray bottle and sprayed the windshield, and that was about all that hit. I mean, it wasn't very much. So this has been a rapid onset of what would be called a flash drought. It quickly dried the soils and vegetation. We've seen some of the trees start losing leaves or changing color prematurely. And we've had a dry start to this September, and we've had these warmer temperatures. And so the outlook is looking dry here until the weekend. So hopefully we do get some of that rain. But the stress will continue to build with that lack of rain. And it's just something to look forward to, is having some rainfall. I know there's been some burn bans, outdoor burn bans that have been implemented as some safety precautions. But as it progresses, we'll see the water levels in wells and ponds and rivers and lakes, all that to continue to decrease.
I tell you, growing up on a well, Andrew, this not a fun time of year for folks that grow up on a well. I can tell you that much. You got to make some constant runs to go get yourself some water. So I'm feeling for those people out there as well. And that's kind of a look at the weather that we've been having, might continue to have, and what might come from it. But there's something else we'd like to talk about here, and that's kind of maybe saving some of those plants. You've mentioned here garden triage and smart watering. What do you mean by all that?
Well, whenever you're addressing the watering issue that you have from a lack of water, you probably do need to do some triaging. So you need to find out what plants are in your landscape that are going to need the most water, or the water that you have to supply. So when I think of that, I'm going to look at my new plantings that I possibly planted. I'm probably not going to add any additional plantings while we're going through this dry spell or period here. I can only imagine how hard that ground is, but definitely be watering those newly planted trees and shrubs at least once or twice a week. You can use soaker hoses. They have some bags that let the water out slowly. I've also seen buckets with a small hole put in the side and allows that water, but you want to spread that water out to the drip line of the tree or shrub, to where it's not just concentrated there at the base of the tree or shrub, but try to spread it out. Try to avoid watering during the hot part of the day. The best time to water is going to be in the early, like before 8 o'clock, because then you're not going to be competing with the sun and evaporation.
So for you right now, saving the new plants is kind of that first priority. What about some other priorities that you might have when it comes to the garden, getting that, vegetable beds, annuals? What else might we need to be on the lookout for?
Well, you might want to look out also for conserving water. So when it comes to trees, some of that mulch can be applied. 2 to 4 inches of mulch could be adequate. You don't want it right up next to the tree, but mulch can also be used in your vegetable beds, a way to preserve some of that moisture. So using a clean straw can cut down on that evaporation. A handy tool that you have whenever you're examining your water situation is your finger. You can use your finger and check the soil moisture, see how far down you feel moisture. That's especially for like containerized plants. They're especially going to dry out quicker in this time of. So you may be watering those twice a day on hot, windy weather. You want to make sure that you're putting the water where it's going to make the most good. So you're going to be watering the soil and not the foliage. So try to apply that water at the base of plants, and that's going to help. Usually we don't see a whole lot of disease problems that are fungal related. Earlier in the year we had a lot of rain, and it could lead and did lead to some fungal issues, but this dry weather does have the benefit of not having fungal infections. And so some people that apply fungicides to their plants may be saving some money, because they don't have to apply those fungicides as regularly, because they're not being washed off, or there's not the rain to. I always think of that disease triangle where you have to have a host, you have to have environmental conditions as part of that triangle. So just think about those things whenever you're taking care of your landscape, your garden. There's a need for water, and you need to use it wisely.
So conserve that water, take care of those new plants first. Do not go planting anything right now, and you might not be able to break dirt anyway. Vegetable beds and annuals as well. Make sure some mulch is maybe even being applied to help cut that evaporation. Think of watering early morning to try and save yourself as well. All right, Andrew, let's take ourselves a break. Andrew Holsinger joining us here on the WTIM Morning Show. He is the horticulture educator with the University of Illinois Extension. We'll be right back with him. Talk about that lawn of yours, maybe how to save it. You're listening to WTIM, your information station.
Your information station. WTIM.
Let's check the markets now on the RFD Radio Network. I'm Jim Taylor. Corn, beans, and Chicago wheat all lower at this hour. December corn down 1.5, 425 1/4. March corn down 1 3/4, 442 3/4. May corn 452.5, down 1 3/4. November beans, 1039 and a quarter, down 4.5. January beans down 4.5, 1058 and a half. March beans, 1073 and a half, down 4.5. December wheat, 527 and a half, down 3/4. March wheat down 3/4, 545 and a half. October bean meal, 280, down to $1.40. October bean oil, 50.93, down 31 cents. Livestock trade, September feeders, 357.12, up 210. October live cattle up 27 cents, 231.37. October lean hogs up 15 cents, 97.47. Energy market, October crude oil, 64.51, up 46 cents.
As the weather cools down, it's time to get ahead of flu season. Here's Dr. Pavi Gill.
Springfield Clinic Taylorville is offering flu shots to help keep you and your family healthy this season. Join us at our flu shot clinic on Saturday, September 27th from 8 to 11:30 a.m.
Walk-ins and appointments welcome. Call 217-287-8855 to schedule.
Shop local first.
When we make most of our purchases from local businesses, when we make the conscious decision to support our local communities, more good things happen. They support our schools, sports programs, and nonprofits. Keep our communities thriving. The Miller Media Group and these local businesses encourage you to shop local first. Marty and Donna Davis and all the team members at the McDonald's Taylorville, Pana, and Shelbyville locations. These local businesses and the Miller Media Group ask you to shop local first.
Shop local first. All across the area, shop here first.
CNB Bank and Trust has been helping open doors for Central Illinois farmers since 1854. Find out why they're among Illinois' top ag lenders by clicking their icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com. Member FDIC.
Hi, I'm Bob Reddings of the Bob Reddings family of dealerships. See our huge inventory of about 2,000 vehicles by clicking on our ad at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
WTIM.
You're listening to WTIM, your information station, and our morning show. It's brought to you by Landmark of Taylorville and People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first. We have joining us today Andrew Holsinger, horticulture educator with the University of Illinois Extension. We talked about saving that garden, or at least what's left of it, and what this drought brings along with it. Now we want to turn our attention to lawns and what's worth saving. And Andrew, what is worth saving when it comes to my lawn?
Well, it's worth saving when it is brown. The cool season lawns, they survive by going dormant. So there's a balance there. Like, do you want to continue watering your lawn or do you want to let it go dormant? But if it goes dormant for too long, then it can turn gray, and gray is not going to come back when the lawn is dead. So if you're trying to keep your lawn green, you need to apply at least a 1/4 inch per week, maybe a 1/2 inch every other week. Keep the crowns alive so that turf can rebound when the rains return. But it does get to a point to where if you have a cool season grass and you don't have the amount of rainfall. But one other thing to think about as you're trying to keep your lawn, if you have patches that you're going to be reseeding, maybe you had a place that struggled, usually our window that we give is like, have it seeded by September 30th, just around the corner. But with the lack of moisture, if you put seed down, it's just going to sit there and it's not really going to do much. It's not going to do anything until it has water, because that's how seeds work, is they imbibe that water and then they germinate and then you have your plant growing. So the suggestion or the recommendation is based on 100% survival of those seedlings. But maybe, some grass is better than no grass. So often it's like I'm looking at the recommendation and I see the lawn contractor out in November putting some seed down, and then you go by the next year and that grass is growing fine. Well, there is a risk there whenever you're planting later in the season. There may be the cold weather that could cause problems for that newly planted lawn, but you have to weigh out the risks and the benefits, and you might have to seed it again. But there is opportunity for dormant seeding, to where maybe in October you would apply your seed, and then hopefully we have some rain by then, and work the way into establishing these places that you might. But I would ward off of any fertilizer for any of your plants during this drought. Try to think about herbicides are probably not going to work as you would like them to the extent that they would, or you might have injury to your turf if you're using herbicides, and whenever it gets this extreme dryness.
So it sounds like don't let that lawn turn gray, from what you're saying to me here. And for us right now, we're just going to keep fingers crossed that some rain is going to be headed our way. Kind of taking us into this next piece, what to expect next. Andrew, what do you think there is to expect next, and maybe where to check to find those things out?
Well, we have seen these hot, dry conditions, but I think eventually it's going to alleviate, and we'll get back to our normal precipitation that we look for. But September is not typically a wet time of the year that we're in. So in the short term, it may get a little bit worse before it gets better. So that's why you need to look at protecting your high value plants. Think about those trees. Even your mature trees could use some watering. Usually they establish quite well and then don't need watering. But whenever we have these periods of extreme drought, it doesn't hurt to maybe give a little bit of water, but also be conservative and be sure to prioritize and triage what you're watering in your landscape.
That is an idea of what to expect next. Maybe not getting better before it does get a little bit worse, but we're expecting maybe near normal precipitation as we make our way into the back half of the month. Well, Andrew, big thank you for joining us here today on the morning show.
Yeah, good to be here.
As always. Well, Andrew Holsinger, horticulture educator with the University of Illinois Extension, joining us today by phone here on the WTIM Morning Show. It's brought to you by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville. Tomorrow morning, we'll have our Shelbyville WTIM Morning Show.
Your information station. WTIM.